Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. I'm Quattro.
I'm Diesel.
And let's dive into some deep conversation. Today's topics are moving on from critical race theory, the power of language, trans women wanting to be called just women, and wasteful DOGE spending. Let's dive into it. First up, why does it seem like ethnicity and sexuality are prioritized over nationality? Has the focus on identity politics and discussions like critical race theory taken us further from unity? We'll explore whether prioritizing identity over shared national values strengthens or weakens our society. Let's dive into it.
Yes. Critical race theory has been a pretty big topic. So as always, we want to start off with defining what something is. So we're just not, grasping in the air at what our own personal meanings of this is, or being objective at the end of the day.
Right.
So what is critical race theory? We see here, critical race theory is an academic concept that is more than 40 years old. The core idea is that race is a social construct and that racism is not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something embedded in legal systems and policies. There's three individuals who came up with this, Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw, and Richard Delgado. So now that we have a basic understanding of what it is, again, it's not necessarily influenced solely by bias or prejudice, but it's also embedded into the fabric of our legal system and our government policies. So does that help us move forward? I guess is really the question.
And me personally, I think critical race theory is something we should move away from, because let's just call a spade a spade. We're reliving a traumatic experience. So if you in your own life went through a traumatic experience, say you were molested as a child, or raped, or
you were drowning,
or you got shot, or someone robbed you, or anything where there was a traumatic experience, do we every year revisit that? Or, okay, this is February 23rd, and this is the day that I almost drowned, I almost died. Do we keep reliving that? If you were a woman that was getting abused in a relationship, do we keep reliving the day that we married the man that was kicking our ass all the time? No, we don't keep living that, because that's traumatic. And if you keep living traumatic experiences, you'll keep feeling victimized.
Yes.
You'll keep feeling oppressed. And that's why I believe moving away from the critical race theory is something that we need to do. Stop telling us, we were slaves, we were nothing, this happened to us and we were whipped and chained and our lives aren't worth anything. Like, stop telling us that. That's not where our journey as Americans of African descent start at.
Exactly.
That's our journey starts from us being, rulers and emperors and kings and queens, scholars and physicists and all these, great ideals and ideologies.
STEM innovators.
Yes, STEM innovators, to be exact.
We were STEM innovators.
I'm with moving away from critical race theory, and I don't think it's eliminating our contributions to society or the struggle that we've been through. It can be acknowledged. It should be acknowledged, and we will talk about it. But to constantly keep bringing it up and using it as our point of reference, our beginning, our start, I think it does more harm to us than good.
I would agree. To make sure we level set everything, let's be mindful that there's a vision in place here. A new administration calls for new vision for America.
Right.
So if the vision for this new administration is that of family and national unity, then that means that there needs to be policy in place to promote family and national unity.
Right.
Now, I'm not of the school of thought where we are saying that we are whitewashing our history.
No, not at all.
Of America. That's not what we're saying at all.
Right.
We're not sweeping it under the rug. We're not saying that it never happened, and we're not saying that it's an event that people need not be made aware of. But we are saying that if our goal as a nation is family and national unity, then we have to have policy in place that promotes that. And we cannot promote that if we are promoting, if we're creating, I should say, like I said, the racial tension not subconsciously, but as a direct product of rehashing the past. So my question is how do we create a quote unquote better future for America if we keep modeling the past?
Exactly. And one of the things is not leading with your sexuality, not leading with your race, as a reference, when you refer to Americans, we should be referred to as Americans.
So should.
We ding.
That's $1.
Right. It's better for us to refer to ourselves as Americans of African descent.
Yes.
Because therefore, when you put things into legislation and rules and and policies come down the line, it applies to all Americans. And we're Americans first. And so therefore, that'll take out the whole segregation, the whole separation, the whole,
exactly.
The animosity that comes with, someone saying they're Black American,
right, a white American, right, exactly.
A white American.
We're creating the lines of division.
We're Americans,
right?
And
that's first. American comes first.
Yes.
Let's talk about how are we viewed when you travel around the world? Do they say you're African American or Black? Like, how do they refer to you?
They call you American.
American.
They say, oh, those the loud Americans over there, and they definitely refer to us as Americans. It ain't no Black American, no red American, no white American. We're just all Americans, and I think that's something that we can use to unify us as a nation.
Yes,
I think nationality and being proud of our nation is key to us moving together. Moving forward together.
I agree.
There was a video with a young lady. She kind of broke it down real good, Miss King, and she was speaking to a young man, and that video really resonated with me, and I want to dive into that video right now and see what you guys think about that.
What about they saying Trump trying to take Black history out of schools and shit?
So let's really have this conversation, because what he was talking about is critical race theory, and critical race theory is just that. It's a theory, and it's written by 3 men. It's not even anything that's factual. But to expound on that a little further, let's just really have a real conversation. I remember growing up in school, every Black History Month, of course, we learned about Martin Luther King, we learned about Malcolm X, we learned about the suffrage of Black people, right? And what does that do to our mindset? Because if you telling the kid every day, you ain't shit, y'all was slaves, y'all came from this, yada yada, they're gonna believe that. So in a lot of ways, we have created an entire generation of people that have a mindset that they are already less than. And that's just something that I refuse to accept or believe. And I just think that we should empower our children. Yeah, it's okay to tell the story, but do we pound it in their head every Black History? It's so many great things that we've done. Why are we still telling that horror story over and over and over and over again? It's trauma.
Like she said, it's trauma. It's trauma. It's trauma.
It's a horror story.
It's a horror story, literally, and we can't keep reliving the American Horror Story. No pun to the series that come on TV, but it's American Horror Story.
Yeah, man.
That we, like she said, we don't ignore it. We acknowledge it, but we don't, dwell on it and keep perpetuating it to the younger generations and everyone, because they saying that it makes the white races or the white children feel inferior, and they feel,
with that whole oppressor,
bad,
we talked about last week, the whole oppressor victim dynamic.
And not to say that, I understand that point, because, say if the shoe was on the other foot and we were the oppressor, and or
the perceived, not the perceived oppressor, but the oppressor. My bad.
We were the oppressor.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, oh, the Black people was wrong for doing this, for doing that. And then you fast forward to 2025, and you got your young kids coming up. I would feel like, oh, we're bad. Right. We're bad people. Why would we do that? Well, like we said, we're educated. We'll educate our people, but don't. Use this to, beat them over the head with
exactly
instilling in them.
So, as a solution, then moving forward, it seems that again we need to, in my opinion, from my perspective, we need a reboot a clean reboot. The same way once your phone start tripping and it's glitching out, usually a reboot or a restart will get you. Now, devil's advocate, there's people who will say, oh, we can't do something like that because, again, they're trying to erase our history. They're trying to whitewash. There was a young bull, I believe his name was Jonathan Harris. And he was talking about, well, you know, pretty much the devil, what my impersonation of his painting was more so the devil's advocate version of what they're saying will happen if we do remove critical race theory, that we're in a sense whitewashing Americans of African descent's history in this country. However, I disagree because if, again, the vision moving forward is that of family unity and to promote national unity, then we cannot keep retelling the American Horror Story.
No, we can't.
And again, that doesn't say, and that's not to say that we're saying it doesn't exist. So, in my opinion, yes, we still, because again, the media is still going to be there. You know,
of course,
the books are still there. So, yeah, it's gonna be on within the household to educate the children on the story. But again, we'll still see the movies and all that kind of stuff. However, from a government, educational, federal level, a mandate that's focused on promoting family unity and national unity cannot be completed if we are continuing with critical race theory.
Which inevitably separates.
It's right. It creates the division.
It creates division.
So we can't have unity if we got to divide.
Exactly. And I also, to take it another step further, I think there should be only one political party. I don't think we need a Democrat and Republican party.
I'm with you on that.
You know, the phrase is divide and conquer. If y'all don't realize that's what's being done, that we've been divided, so we could be so caught up bickering. I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, you right, you wrong.
You're right. We're all American.
Right, we're all American, and we all have, you know, the one goal in mind: America first, make America great again, and keep it great.
And before we move on, last point, as Americans, we now have to understand that our existence is no longer a national existence. We are on a global playing field now.
Yes.
Because the internet connects us all.
Great point.
Period, point blank.
Great point.
So the archetypes or the dynamic of oppressor, victim, dominance, and like that's always going to be a thing. This is because that's just the human experience. However, if the vision moving forward is to promote family unity and national unity as Americans, then to your point, why do we have all these different parties? Why are we acknowledging ourselves? Why are we dividing ourselves based on a political party, based upon how we identify as human beings, you know, our sexuality? Like all that's doing is creating lines of division,
right? As
opposed to us being America versus everybody else. Why are we not focused on that if the goal truly is family unity and national unity, to the point where I'm talking about we eliminate anything other than American on the applications, like everything. Like it's no longer black, white. There's none of that exists no more on any formal documents. It's just all American or foreigner. That's it.
It's funny you said that because pretty much it's up to you, to survive and make sure your family is educated and that you thrive. There was this man, this 65-year-old man. I heard the video that he did, and he was like referring to, his perspective, growing up in the 40s and 30s or whatever, and that kind of, there was a question I asked on our last episode, were we doing better
or worse
prior or after 1964?
Were we able to be self-sufficient and take care of ourselves? Or are we going to believe the story that we are told that we weren't? Because again, that's that whole perpetual. You guys were slaves. You couldn't get jobs.
Right.
But again, we got a perspective here.
Yeah, I got a perspective. The 65-year-old man, like he just really like broke it down. So let's tap into that.
This elder is telling some truth.
Yes, I'm 65 years old, and I was born in 1930. And you know what? Black people was a whole lot better off. It's more of them finished school, and more of them had their own business because I lived through it. And then why should I'm 65 years old, and I can't read and write. How come that I get all the money I want ever since I've been here? I ain't never been discriminated against. Ain't no white man never discriminated against me. If he did, kid. I didn't know nothing about it. I create a baby. I can create anything. I don't need the welfare to give me nothing. I don't need no formative action. I'm a man. And Bell Curve was right. You is useless if you ain't got something to take care of yourself.
Hey, spitting game.
What OG say?
Hot fire.
You are useless if you can't take care of yourself.
And so, as he said, in closing, you got to be able to be self-sufficient at the end of the day. And as we saw a firsthand account from a brother who was born in the 1930s.
Yeah.
From his perspective, we were better off. And one thing I caught, he said he didn't know how to read or write. But he still could see that we was better off.
And we were thriving. we were married. We had businesses.
Right. We were finishing at school.
We were graduating, was educated. Now
owning businesses.
Our education level was, embarrassing.
Very embarrassing.
The amount of business ownership is, embarrassing. The single family households is devastating. And it's just like, come on. That's why I raised the question. Were we doing better prior? They making all this fuss about that 1964 act. Mm-hmm. But I challenge you to think, were we doing better prior to that? Or we're doing better after that? Was that something that helped us?
Yep.
But like we said, we always diving into topics to challenge the thought process and tap in and let us know what you think. And now we're going to take a closer look into the power of language.
Yes, it's a good one.
Words aren't just words. They shape perception, control conversations, and often have two meanings at once. When you hear a phrase, what's the image it creates in your mind? And more importantly, who puts it there? Let's dive into this.
Man, so this is actually a pretty interesting topic to me as I've been learning
this is one of your
power and importance of language, going back to the whole tyranny of should.
You being a man of many words.
So yeah, we have to be mindful, ladies and gentlemen, of the words that we're using to describe ourselves and the world around us, because that is giving those listening and observing us a bird's eye view of how we view ourselves.
Definitely.
So that's why language is important. Now, as Will kind of talked about, we have to be mindful that even though, for example, even though we're having a discussion right now between the two of us, and then obviously we're having a discussion between us and our audience, we're all operating from a different reality. So it's like, yeah, we're still talking to each other, we're still using the same words, but from a big, like I said, a bird's eye view, if someone's looking down on us, it'll look basically like this image you see on the screen. Like everyone is operating within their own universe.
Their own galaxy.
Yeah, their own reality, as we like to say.
Right.
That's why it's important for us to effectively communicate. We can't just operate on autopilot and assume that because we're using a word that this individual that we're talking to, they understand the language that we're using. Because you can have the same word and it be pronounced totally different.
Yeah, words are important. Like you got tear. That could be a tear drop, or you could tear a piece of paper.
Right.
You got read, or it could be read. The past tense of read. You got live, or it could be live. You got polish, or it could be Polish.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you got resume, or it could be resume. You got close, as close in proximity, or you could close the door. You got present.
Facts.
Or present.
That one.
Yeah, you got present or present. You got a record, or you could record something. You could be in the desert, or you could desert someone. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's crazy.
Yes,
it's crazy. How language is, and I heard someone say they call it spelling because you're inevitably casting a spell. So that's why they call it spelling. So we are, when we speak, we're casting spells. So with that line of thinking, we definitely have to be mindful of what's coming out of our mouths, especially as we refer to ourselves.
Yes.
And our families and what we want for our lives. The whole manifesting thing, that's real.
Very much so. That's very metaphysically real.
It's very metaphysically real, and we speak things into existence. The Bible says, speak things as not as though they were. And then it also talks about in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and it was with God. Not to say that this is a religious thing, but these are different references to word
and the power
and
of
the power of
language.
word. You know, in the beginning, God created. He said, "Let there be." He said. That means He spoke. There was
Words.
a word
Right.
that made things shift and happen, and atmosphere change. So we have that same power. If we're created in the likeness and image of God, come on, I'm preaching now. We have that same image,
Right? Nah,
and power and authority to speak things as that are not as though they were.
I'm picking up what you're putting down
Hey, go
because
ahead,
you
man.
are another one that they have in the Bible was write the vision and make it plain.
And make it plain. So that goes writing and speaking.
Because language is both visual and auditory.
Yes, it is.
And I would imagine that there is some sort of auditory frequency from when we say certain words. So if I say I'm feeling good, I'm pretty sure that has a different frequency on our body than I feel bad.
Oh, definitely.
Or I feel good has a different frequency than I feel bad. But again, as we said, we're speaking that into existence by using that language or those words. As well as when we're talking to people, we might be talking to somebody and saying like, you know, oh man, I feel bad about this, da, da, da. But again, bad could be both, you know, a positive thing as in like, oh man, that's a bad chick right there. Or I felt that was a bad, or it could be bad as in, you know, some sort of negative behavior. Like, oh, they were acting up in class. They were being bad.
And if you're from Philly, you know, we have a term called John, and that could be anything.
Right.
John, and, you know, that John could be anything you're talking about. So, you know, you got to be on point and know what you're talking about.
So is it safe to say that, well, we do know this is to be true, but when you travel to different areas of the world, again, you can have the same word, but it can mean something totally different.
Yes, it could definitely mean, and that relates in social constructs, religion, and neighborhoods. You know, you could be in a quote unquote Crip neighborhood, and the different slang that they use is totally different to what they might use in a Blood neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I hate to use that as an example, but I'm just saying, just to, you know, to keep it plain, keep it real. You know, like words have double meaning all the time. You know, double speak is something that is definitely real.
I was just about to say, let's bring up that point about double speak, because again, double speak is something that is happening on a daily basis that we all aren't necessarily aware of.
Right.
So as it says, what is double speak? We hear and read double speak every day, but what exactly is double speak? Webster's dictionary defines it as evasive, ambiguous, high-flown language intended to deceive or confuse.
Wow.
So this is most of why we ultimately really wanted to talk about the power of language, especially now in the political landscape that we're in. You know, we have to be mindful that at all times there's agendas at play.
Right.
Everybody got an agenda, but do you have an agenda? Because if you don't have an agenda, then you might fall victim to the politician's agenda.
Right.
Because as we kind of see now that with the changes in the language and how they reference stuff, the politicians are now starting to realize that, hey, you know what I'm saying? Like we gotta change it up. We got to rebrand, you know, our language, our terms, our words and everything, because again, the people, they starting to catch on.
Yeah, I like that post you said, like where, you know, they, like we just seen, they starting to catch on. We got to change things. You got to start speaking over their head. You know what I'm saying?
You got to create new language. So that's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. That's why language is important, because every day new language is being created that you might be thinking that they're saying what they're saying, but they're actually saying something totally different from than actually what you think that they're saying. But you think they're saying what they're saying because they're using the word that you believe you understand.
I was, you know, to prove the point about language, you know, there were, you know, is this, and this will lead us into our next segment, or we could talk more about it then. But the point here I want to talk about is language, how they changed the language from transgenderism is no longer a mental health thing. And so they changed the language, you know, to make it seem like it's a sexual health thing. And it's something that's that is caused by peer pressure or society or things like that.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, and it's crazy how they just changed the wording.
They changed the language, right?
They changed the language to make it more encompassing of anybody who choose to to identify as that,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. So I found that very interesting as we was talking about language and double speak and how words can, either they changing things. Our great President Barack Obama, during his tenure, a lot of those things were implemented and changes were made for languages as regards to mental health. And
so, Mr. Alexander, you mean to tell me that with the stroke of a pen, a whole lexicon of language and what it meant was redefined?
From a stroke of a pen, the DMC-5, I think that's the acronym for it, they were able to eradicate body transphoria. Dysphoria.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I like transphoria. I don't think I heard that one.
Leave it to me to fuck something up. But they were able to alleviate that because before, to get for you to get gender reassignment surgery, it was classified as a mental health illness.
Okay.
And you had to go through all these psychological and talk to these psychiatrists and things and go through all these.
Like a little evaluation.
Get evaluated to make sure that you wasn't making this decision based on depression, low self-esteem, or anxiety, or being bullied, right?
Okay.
So it was a mental illness. And so that's why a lot of people didn't go all the way through with these transitions because they found out.
Okay.
So it
was the language. They learned about the language.
They learned about the language, and that's why.
And what it would, and the image or the impression it would give off.
Come on now.
Yeah.
So that's why they changed it to make it a little more looser, so it could, people could be more,
more
privileged.
inclusive.
Yeah, more inclusive and more, privileged to consider this as a right or something that they should be entitled to do.
So the same way governments use language to change the images and futures of their citizens, guess what? We can do that in our own households.
Yes.
We can use our language to reimagine a whole new future for ourselves. No different than every politician around the world. No different.
No different. And this leads us that's a great segue into our next topic. Okay, now we're diving into the growing debate over trans women being recognized simply as women. What does this mean for women's sports, women's spaces, and how do we define gender in society? Can we have an open, honest conversation without getting shut down? Well, let's dive into it. And this topic right here is a big one, a real controversial one, and it's another one that I just don't understand how people
I'm confused
don't
too.
Understand. There's
I'm confused too.
Two genders. You're male or female. You know what I'm saying? Like, cut point period.
Period. At least that's what I remember growing up. Or that's what...
No, that's what I know. That's what we know. It ain't about remembering that. That's what you know.
That's what we were taught growing up. But that's what I'm saying. Remember how we just talked about how language, with the stroke of a pen, language changes. So when we were coming up, that's what it was.
Now the language has changed. What's the gender you've been assigned at birth? That's a big one. When I heard that on the commercial, like, which gender you have been assigned, like there was a bag of genders.
Yeah.
And they just was like, well, which one you want? Which one you want? You want to be a leprechaun? You want to be a boy? You want to be a he, she?
You want to be a cat?
You want to be a cat? Meow.
Now, before we'll stay on topic. So, yeah, going back to let's start with the executive order for keeping women out of, keeping men out of women's sports. Right. So that was the most recent order that was signed in relation to this specific topic. Let's read it real quick. It says, therefore, it is the policy of the United States to rescind all funds from educational programs that deprive women and girls of fair athletic opportunities, which results in the endangerment, humiliation, and silencing of women and girls and deprives them of privacy. We'll stop right there. Now, as a sports fan myself, I enjoy looking at sports of all kinds. And one of the things of recent years that I personally felt a little pissed off about was the fact that we got these men trying to compete against the women. Like, that really grinds my gears, and I don't really understand why people don't understand why that's a problem.
At the Portland Interscholastic League Championships, a trans sophomore runner for McDaniel High School finished first in both the girls' 200 meter and the 400 meter. You can see the athlete speeding by their competition here. The athlete, formerly a male, is allowed to compete under the OSAA rules as a girl and will compete this weekend at state. They have the top 200 meter time in the state and the third best time in the 400 meter. Neither time would have made the podium on the boys' side.
Yo, I don't understand it either. I don't understand what's so hard to not even admit. I mean, it's just acknowledge a fact.
Yeah.
You know, if I sit here and say 1 and 1 is 2, how are you gonna sit there and say 1 and 1 is 11? You know what I'm saying? It's like no, it's not. You know, you have 2 ones next to each other, but if you adding both of those ones, you get 2.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, so.
But not to cut you, but that's why language is
important. Yeah, the language.
Because technically, if we are identifying 1 as the variable, just as the number, then 1 plus 1 could be 11. But 9 times out of 10, 1 plus 1 is 2.
Right. And all this genders being assigned at birth and all that crap, I think that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, man.
You know, like we said, it's hard. It's hurtful to see a man, a biological man, you know, compete against women in sports. And, you know, because if you look at the records that's been set in the times of men and women in track and field,
right.
say, let's use track and field as an example. The slowest man outbeats the fastest woman by a landslide.
Yes.
It's not close.
Yes, they have that. They actually did a study of this. I think I shared it to you.
Yes.
There's legitimately a site somewhere on the Blue Ivy's internet where it literally shows you that stuff. Or it literally shows you, and that's why it's quote unquote unfair to me. Now we say life isn't fair, but in athletic competition, we create rules to create a level of fairness.
But that's why you have women's sports and you have men's sports. And I feel the easy and the most effective solution, just have a transgender sport.
I agree. Right.
You
create
can have
their own
basketball.
league.
Let the transgender men play against other transgender men in basketball. Let transgender women play against other transgender women in volleyball. Whatever you want to do, let them have their own sport. That'll be you got the WNBA, you got the NBA, and you got the TNBA. I mean, what's wrong with that?
I
Come
agree.
on, don't y'all think that's a solution?
Well, here's, and this is why I agree with that, because, for example, I'll just use tools as an example. So we got screwdrivers. Well, we got different types. We got the flathead and we got the Phillips.
Yep.
Now, when they created that star screwdriver, they didn't say the star screwdriver was a flathead or a Phillips.
No, because it's not.
It's not. It was a screwdriver, though. But they understood it was a different type of screwdriver. So they gave it its own name.
Right.
Or its own league, or its own group, its own category.
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
It's now the star. So now we got 3 screwdrivers. We got flathead, we got Phillips, and now we got star.
Right.
We didn't change the language of what flathead and what screwdriver meant to be inclusive of star.
Exactly. That's a good
We
point.
just created a new category. So why can't we do that when it comes to transports?
Let's get into some of the factual of the matter.
Okay.
You know, some of these executive orders, because I think my guy Trump just passed an executive order where he, you know, signed into legislation that we will only recognize 2 genders.
So yeah, that's defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government.
And I think that's is needed. You know, we got to have this.
So let's see. Accordingly, my administration will defend women's rights and protect freedom of conscience by using clear and accurate language and policies to recognize women are biological females and men are biological males. Like
point blank period. What are they trying to create here? Like, what's the end game?
Well,
because if you go with 30 genders. So what's to say we can't? It ain't gonna go to 500 genders. Like what's the end game? Like when do it stop? Like when do?
And that's really my question too. Where is the line drawn? To your point, like male, female, then it was whatever. And personally, every time I have tried to engage a trans person in this discussion, or a gay person, or someone of the LGBT in these types of discussions about, you know, their view of the world and how they use the language, it's always met with a sense of defensiveness and resistance, which prohibits me from gaining a better understanding of their view of the world. Now, I would like to understand them better, but they never are willing to have the conversation.
Now, you said every time you run into a what?
A what?
You said every time you run into a
transgender.
So now there's a difference.
Oh yeah, right.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
So we have transgenders, and then you have
transsexuals. As I learned,
is defined as.
So transgender is a person. Well, a transgender is someone whose gender identity differs from that typically associated with the sex they were assigned at birth. Language, right. Assignment at birth. Often transgender people desire medical assistance to medically transition from one sex to another. Those who do may identify as transsexual. So that's what I actually learned here. The difference between, language, transgender and transsexual, those are two separate things. Then I also learned that transsexual was, again, those are just the individuals who are actually trying to have the surgery. So it makes me think about that one quote where it says, if genitalia doesn't confirm gender, how does cutting it off affirm it?
And yeah, that's the point I would want to, dwell on. If the argument is like gender doesn't, like you said, confirm or deny.
Or the genitalia.
The genitalia, right. The balls and the nuts and, the ovaries and the reproductive system, and, that's inside the woman. If that,
the vulva.
If that doesn't confirm your gender, how is it that you got to have this sex change to affirm who you are?
Right.
So
I don't get it. I'm confused, and I'm really genuinely confused, ladies and gentlemen.
It's confusing because
I am
confused. That's why.
And that's why, personally, to your point, I just don't even engage it because, again, going back to language as well as vision, it's like my reality. You know what I mean? Kind of like how we talked about the power of language, where we showed those images of everybody has their own, operating from their own reality.
Right.
So it's just like, that's another question. Like, where's the line drawn between me considering their reality, but them not having to consider my reality? Because think about it, like, to your point, there's always this, they're leading with their identities or sexuality or transgender, or I'm transsexual, or I identify as this. And you have to acknowledge me and refer to me as this.
Well, that's wrong right there. You shouldn't be leading, or you, right, shouldn't. That's it right there, but it's still I'm gonna figure how to say it.
Yeah.
But leading with your sexuality is not the best way to represent yourself in society.
I agree.
You do not want to be identified by who you sleeping with, or what you got going on in your
I would
bedroom.
hope you have more going on than just some obsession with dick and ass.
You do yourself a disservice by sitting here saying I'm a homosexual American, or I'm an LGBTQ American. Like, who cares? You're American or whatever.
I just care about you being American, right?
Or European descent, whatever. If you want to get into specifics, we'll go that route. But you should not be leading.
Sure.
You are more than your sexuality. You right. It's not good to be leading with your sexuality. You are more than just who you sleep with, or the things that you do in your bedroom. That's just like if you went to prison. Like, should you? Is it ideal for you to be leading with? I'm a criminal American. I'm a felony American. Like, take all these adjectives, quote unquote,
right? Throw them away.
Throw them away. I mean, there's no purpose to it. It does yourself. It does yourself a disservice. Because I watch a lot of those Charlie Kirk videos, and they come up to the microphone. Well, I'm a LGBTQ person, and it's like, and he like, I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's obvious that you playing for the other team or whatever. You're confused or whatever the case may be. I mean, no disrespect, but whatever the case, it's you don't have to announce that.
Yeah, we can see it.
We don't care.
And that part too, most importantly.
People don't care.
Because again, when it comes to public matters and people affairs, like what you do in the privacy of your home is your business.
Because we should be treating people for the person that
should.
It's always better to treat people for the person that they are.
Exactly.
Like Martin Luther King said, we should be but Martin Luther King said he have a dream for the day where we'll be judged by the content of our character, and not the color of our skin or who we got sleeping in the bedroom.
I think you just opened up a whole nother can of worms, because I never applied Dr. King's I have a dream speech to this angle, because that makes perfect sense to me as you just said that. So are we moving away from Dr. King's dream?
Absolutely.
By having all these different adjectives that we want to put to acknowledge or identify ourselves?
All the DEI stuff.
Right.
DEI is a straight contradiction to Dr. King's dream, in my opinion, because he fought for a day where we weren't judged by the color of our skin, but more so the content of our character, our mindset, our cognitive ability to function and grasp and create and to innovate.
Capabilities
and right.
And
then another fact on this topic, real quick before we go to the next topic, the transgenders and the transsexuals, they don't see eye to eye.
I've noticed that as well.
They don't see eye to eye, and
There's beef.
We think as heterosexual people that it's like all under one blanket. But the person that had the actual gender assignment surgery takes it very serious, their title, and they're are often offended by the people that come along and just dress
kind
up.
of cosplay.
Kind of cosplay. That's how they refer. And they're pissed about it.
I would be too. It's kind of like, you're hijacking my identity for your, kind of on that note, before we close, you're hijacking my identity to hide behind something. So for example, a man, cosplaying as a woman, identifying as transgender, but then you still want to fight a man. But then when the man hits you, now you want to, I'm a victim. I think we got a video about that.
Yeah. That one's crazy. Now, yeah, let's roll that video.
It's gonna be tough. He's a man. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not gonna kiss his ass. I'm not gonna stroke his ego. Because a lot of times when the rah-rah comes, it's because they're on the defense mode, because they know that the way that they're reacting is wrong. And you cannot tell me that shit doesn't hurt you.
But in another breath though, I do gotta take some type of accountability, because I did hit him first.
And you gotta stop that too?
I do gotta stop that, because I be hitting and I be thinking a nigga not supposed to hit me back, but I don't know.
But we gonna figure it out, okay? Right. But I didn't like what the fuck I saw.
All right,
we doing TV, but
yeah, as we see,
what she said, she didn't agree. She's like, we'll figure that out because you're clearly a man, and the man hit you. You could hit him back, bro. Take that wig off and square up.
Right, and that's the part of it that's somewhat confusing me, because it's like, again, you wanna hide behind now you being a woman or being called just a woman when it's convenient for you, but you're cosplaying a woman, and no different than in sports. You know what I mean? Like, it's to me, it just seems very unauthentic.
Yeah, and
that's someone, to your point, as someone who really took that lifestyle seriously, I most likely would feel offended by people cosplaying my identity.
It's not fair.
It's not.
It's not fair to women out there. And then another point that's not fair to the women, they gave them a whole nother title. They call them cis women.
Yeah.
It's like, so how are you going to take away them being a woman and label them cis woman, and now you're the woman?
Exactly.
It's like, come on now.
Ladies, don't let them hijack your title.
They not having it. Straight women ain't having it. They like, I'm a woman. Like, no, I'm a woman. And I think that's another, no, you're a cis woman. Like, come on now. It just don't make sense.
Don't make
Like
sense.
I said, it's totally unfair. Like, you know, with society, you know, it's unfair to women.
Yep.
You know, they don't have their spaces anymore. You know, they're not comfortable. They feel endangered. You know, they're not safe. And we got to protect our women. We love our women. Our women are essential to our thriving and our, you know.
And in closing, on that specific note, did you see all those cases? I believe in the state of California, where the men, there were people who humans that looked like men, but because they identified as women, they put them in the female prison. But then they was having sex with the female prisoners, getting them pregnant and stuff.
Yeah, I was wondering where you was going. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
So going back to your point about women need to be protected.
Yes, they do.
Especially, so you mean to tell me you go lock a woman in the cell with a man? And you feel, quote unquote, confident that you gotta do that because legally the language says if they identify, because I think that's what it was. The gentleman, he got on paper legally, he got it changed to where he was legally a woman, or legally female,
but he still had his schlong.
Yes,
and it was still working,
and he was still having sex with the woman.
I seen the I think it was the attorney general or the DA of some state or whatever the case may be. They was brought before Congress, and they were getting questioned, and you know, and they was like, "How did you allow this man to be in a cell with a woman? How don't you think that's you know, and infringing on the woman's right, who's, you know, even though she's a prisoner, she's in jail, she has rights. So we got your back, women out there. We ain't gonna let this happen. Yeah, like enough is enough.
Enough is enough. So moving right along.
Wasteful government spending has been an issue for decades, but could the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency be the answer? Designed to eliminate unnecessary spending and hold agencies accountable. This initiative could be a game changer, right? Or just another bureaucratic illusion. Let's dive into it.
Let's go ahead, man.
Let's dive into it.
So this DOGE has been a very interesting topic as of late. I've definitely been seeing a lot of headlines, but as always, we're going to start with the orders.
And before we get into it, this is another, what I'm realizing, a lot of the controversy is over black and white things.
Right.
Like, this is a person who is not getting paid for this. You know, he's not a full-time employee. I think I'm talking about Elon Musk. He only works, I think, 100 and something days out the year, almost like an auditor. Right. You know, he's just coming in, making sure things is going where they should go. But yet the Americans are in an uproar about it, and they, you know, making it seem like it's more than what it is. He's over the currency. He's changing things. He's not doing nothing. Trump done got on here and said that man can't do nothing that he don't allow him to do. Right. Everything he has to. He only has a C. He only could see what's going on. He don't have, almost like when you get like an Excel sheet.
So he's behind the safety glass in this.
Yeah, it's like when you get it. Sometimes when someone forwards you an Excel sheet.
Okay.
Sometimes you have
view only.
He in view only.
View only.
He's
no.
view only.
Well, his permissions, his security permissions is that of view only. He can't write.
He can't write, change, or nothing.
Yeah, he can't write, basically.
Right.
He can't write.
And so with that being said, I don't understand, well, you know, and then the things that they're finding. But before we get into that, let's get into, you know.
Let's get into these orders.
Let's get into the executive order.
All right, so establishing and implementing the President's Department of Government Efficiency. So let's look at the literature. So purpose, this executive order establishes the Department of Government Efficiency to implement the President's DOGE agenda by modernizing federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity. So to your point, that's the black and white of it all. That's the black and white of the DOGE situation. And if you're making it about anything other than that, then if you're making it about anything other than that, then you're just caught up in your own reality of events. And I'm not saying that it's right, wrong, good, bad, beautiful, ugly, but I am saying you're inaccurate because like you said, it's in black and white right there.
It's black and white, and it's, you know, we have to admit that this is our money. This is our taxpayer dollars. They tax us so many times. Like our money get taxed leaving. When it's sitting there, you tax when you go to work. So once you get your paycheck, they tax it. When you go buy things, they tax it.
It's like our money is taxed just to exist.
Yes, when you go buy something, it's taxed. If you have a savings account or you got some type of money market and you got gains, capital gains, and you done made some money, they tax that. A death benefit, if you get some money through
the death tax, right?
There's a death tax. It's like we're continuously getting taxed. And it's like all this money, and it's just going out the window.
You would think by the rate that we get taxed that we should have You would think by the rate we are taxed that we would have a war chest of money or a surplus of money for America to do so much things, but that money ain't just vanishing because it is getting printed.
Yeah, it is.
The money is getting printed,
right?
And it's getting digitized, but again, it's not coming.
It's not coming to the American
people.
So
going back to DOGE, I saw a pretty interesting article on Vox, and it was talking about, because what I've been noticing is you got two camps in a sense. You got the people, to your point, the ones who believe that Elon is stealing everything, their information. But then we got, the order in black and white, what it represents, what it means. So this quote was very interesting to me. And it says, because again, the people who are against Elon being in this position or of the thought that, there's no bureaucracy that's robbing us blind. The money is going to where it needs to go to. What's really causing the cost to rise for Americans is that we're aging. So we have to spend, like I said, the actual drivers of Americans' rising debt burden are the escalating costs of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. So that's what the people or those who are against Elon that's their reasoning as to why DOGE doesn't need to exist.
How, Swag? Like, make that make sense.
That's just how they feel. That's how they. But back to the point, like we as an American country, we print a lot of money, we send a lot of money abroad, and then we tax Americans just for them having money to exist. But then we tell American citizens we never have any money for our own resources. So we don't have money to fix homelessness. We don't have money for housing. We don't have money for the things that education. Education. We tell American citizens we don't have money for our needs or our wants and desires, but we constantly printing money and sending it to foreign countries. And it's like, where is that money going?
It's going to somebody's pocket.
So it's definitely going to somebody's pocket.
And that's why I like Trump, because he has an initiative on the table where he wants to cut the income tax. And
I saw that.
And kind of rule by tariffs. And once again, the extreme left is like pushing back against that, like, oh no, tariffs, like it's common sense. If you're selling your product from your country and my country, and when I sell my product in your country, I pay you a tariff, right? Why can't I get the same tariff,
right,
when you selling stuff in my country?
Right.
Or why is it so egregious or such a red flag when he wants to have tariffs put in place on people that's really capitalizing off the American people?
Especially in light of this being a global economy.
Facts.
So if we are in a global economy and American goods that are exported are tariffed once they reach their destination port, then to your point, why would we as an Americans have a problem with that? But going back to just the DOGE specifically angle to this, why wouldn't we want to have some sort of governing body overseeing this efficiency? Because as I said, we're talking about technology. Seems like from the order that by making things efficient, they're going to be making some technological changes. So implementing new softwares, I would imagine, new hardwares to kind of do, and since we got AI, to probably do some of the redundant, remedial tasks that kind of maybe slows government down. Yeah,
there's a department of our government called the USAID, the USAID, and these people are responsible for sending aid throughout the globe.
I didn't even know that existed.
I mean, I didn't either. And just to put things in perspective, so y'all don't think we're just talking shit. There's been a lot of videos that talks about the wasteful spending that's going on. Let's look at a couple of these videos, and you let me know, is this where you want your tax dollars going?
Trump basically shut the government out of government. And the Democrats shrugged, turned around, and went to dinner. This is what Democrats are fighting to save.
These are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap. And I know the American people don't either. And that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
We can keep going. $20 million for Iraqi Sesame Street, $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes, $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash, $27 million to give gift bags to illegals before we deport them, millions to help Afghanis grow crops instead of opium. That program was such a success that opium production doubled. We also gave Afghanistan $300 million to build diesel fuel power plants, but they couldn't use them because diesel was too expensive. $200 million on a dam that was too unsafe to ever be used. We could have used that dam in California. $250 million on a road that was never used. We literally built a road to nowhere. Oh, and we gave Syrians $9 million for humanitarian aid, but someone messed up and it went to Al-Qaeda. $1 million for bat research in Wuhan. That equates to $1 million for each dead American. USAID was funding Fashion Week in Paris. France isn't even paying its NATO dues, and we're paying for their Fashion Week. USAID's a $40 billion deep state social justice slush fund. And the president says it's a little fishy.
Yeah, it is a little fishy.
That is very interesting.
It's a lot of fishy. It's a lot of fishy.
Before we move on, we do know that our budget is huge.
Right. The pot is huge.
The pot is huge. We do know that. Because again, playing devil's advocate, well, how do they know that these numbers are real and where are their sources and all? I'm always of the belief where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right.
And I understand that everyone has an agenda, including Fox News. They might like to embellish certain things. But the point being, there's smoke there. Like that's right. Well, let's focus on the fact that there is smoke.
Right.
So there is wasteful spending. And as we just said, like, why are we funding Sesame Street in a foreign country? Why are we putting on plays and writing comic books when we claim that homelessness is a problem?
Right.
Making sure kids eat at lunch in school is a problem. Educate, like, we got our problems in America.
Our infrastructure, our roads, our highways. Like, I've been to beautiful cities, Dubai and things, and been to Japan and Tokyo and stuff, and you see the massive infrastructure that they have that's so forward thinking and so new and modern and trending, and the airports that you see across the world are so beautiful and grand. And you would think America would possess all those things. You would think America would have the greatest buildings, the grandest hotels, the grandest airports and stuff like that, but we don't. Our stuff is like real low budget. Like
we the B-side.
like real low budget. And it's like, who's responsible for letting these funds go out the door like that? Who's
money is getting printed.
Who's responsible for allocating all these things? And so that brings us to the next video that kind of speaks about who's responsible for it. Because what I found out that these people, Elon Musk found out that these people are never told no when it comes to getting requests for this money.
Really?
Oh, yes. Roll the next video.
Musk and the DOGE team are looking at how much money the federal government spends, and he posted this on X. The DOGE team discovered, among other things, that the payment approval officers at Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire careers, not even once. What do you make of Elon Musk going through Washington right now with a Hoover?
I'm okay with it. And I think the American people are okay with it. Everybody knows the dirty little secret about government. It drips with fat. No one's ever done an exercise like this. I thought he'd get a lot more pushback from Congress, and he's not. He's going in there with a spatula, and he's scraping out billions of dollars, and people are okay with it. After all, it's taxpayers' money. Right. Why not do this? If you sit around your kitchen table, you got to have a budget every year. Right. Why can't we apply the same kind of philosophy to government? And that's why he's getting a lot of latitude and a lot of slack, even though he's a controversial guy. But look at the executional skills he has. Sure. There's nobody like him. Let him do his thing.
Mr. Wonder.
Man, I'm like, how can you disagree with that? First of all, the agency or the entity that's in charge never is getting told no.
Right.
There's no checks and balances.
So it's like a blank check, basically.
Yeah, that's why you could fund a transgender opera over in Ireland or whatever. They said, like the stuff that Sesame Street in
that makes sense
in Kuwait somewhere. Like, what in the world are y'all doing with our money?
Like I said, these are
give me my money,
dollars.
I'm calling J.G. Wentworth. I want my money, and I want my money now.
Oh man, where's J.G. Wentworth when you need him? But yeah, to Mr. Wonderful's point, like, why would Americans have a problem with the government having a legitimate budget like they tell their citizens to have?
Yeah.
Like, why would that be a problem?
Well, they tell us our credit score matter, and they're in a $3 trillion deficit.
I was actually talking to somebody about that the other day. Like, how is it that we as Americans is sitting up in this country letting them tell us that we got bad credit, and they can't find trillions of dollars. Yes. They owe trillions of dollars, and ain't nobody saying nothing about their credit rating.
No, their credit rating. I wonder what their credit score.
What's America's credit rating? What's America's credit score? Like, that's what I would like to know, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone has that information, just at the Ripple Effect podcast so we can know, because again, if America was a person and it had to have a FICO score, what would it be?
Right, the lowest.
I would think it would be it'd be lower than the lowest American citizen.
I think
that's what that's where it would land.
I know I got a better credit score than America.
Me too.
and so piggyback on this whole department, USAID department or USAID. So when Elon got in there and found out what was going on, the Trump administration only kept 294 out of 10,000 globally that are staffed under this, department of USAID. They only found out that we only, need 294. So that was a lot of fat.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a huge labor line.
That is huge.
So that's part of the efficiency, because remember when Elon bought Twitter, he basically did something similar. He trimmed a lot of the fat.
Yeah.
He cut off, he fired, or they let go of a lot of the workers, fired or resigned, however you want to label it. But they were still able to function. And I vividly remember people saying, like, "Oh, the company's going to crash because they don't have the people to run it." But then it's just like, "Oh no, we'll be all right."
And so Trump is offering, because his whole thing was to shrink government, and that was one of his talking points when he ran on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
And we always like, okay, shrink the government, right? So these people now they arguing what I seen in the news today. They're upset because he's offering them a payout. And they're mad that he's offering them a payout. Like, they say that the federal workers are upset about the email they got about Trump offering them a payout. I'm like, so he said he want to shrink the government, and he's taking into consideration your livelihood. He's giving you
like
payout.
A severance package.
Yes, he's giving you a payout. Like, your services are no longer needed. Here you go. I'm not just going to cut you cold turkey and leave you out here to dry. And I think if he would have did that, he would have still been like, well, the argument about what are the people to do now? He's giving them a severance pay, so to speak, a buyout. Now you go ahead and transition. You done came up enough. Like, come on now,
man.
Almost like the people that's been on Section 8 housing. They mad that he's making it that you can't be on Section 8 forever and you can't pass it down to generations and generations. It's like, so what are you mad about? What are you mad about?
Okay.
What are you mad at? Section 8 wasn't here for you to be on it. That wasn't a lifetime assignment. You know what I'm saying? It was for you to get on your feet.
No, exactly.
Like, why is it 15 years later you still ain't on your feet?
Still ain't on your right. It's taking your feet. Like, well, going back to OG,
and you only paying $36 for rent.
Going back to OG from that was saying that specifically Americans of African descent were better off before all of these social programs,
all these handouts.
That's what I believe he's getting at. Is that when you give safety net or cushion or shortcuts or handouts to people. Yes, they're going to take the handout. They're not going to try to be self-sufficient. They're not going to try to do what it takes to, quote unquote, take care of themselves. They're going to depend on government, which is most likely a factor as to how the government got to the size that it did. But if you don't have anything else on this topic, I think we might want to
this is like
close this up.
We can close this up because I'm for the DOGE. Let's get some of these resources back so our lives here could be better.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
And hopefully that's the plan. Elon and Mr. Trump, President Trump, if y'all saying that the money is not going to be sent to these other foreign countries or these other programs that you guys are defending as wasteful spending, then I would like to see where that money is now going to be funneled to. Ideally, the causes that America has problems with, one being homelessness.
Yes.
So let's see what y'all got going.
Housing,
right?
Education,
free lunch,
infrastructure,
right? Roads, bridges, all that kind of
pollution.
Let's see what y'all do with the money. That's what I'm interested in finding out. Like, what y'all gonna do? So,
all right. So
next topic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have a new segment we are introducing and debuting on this episode: live reactions. So this is a very interesting video. It's of a gentleman expressing his frustration with how America's been working. When I saw it, I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, this is definitely up Will's alley when it comes to reaction. So let's roll the video.
I ain't seen the video, so I can't be held responsible for what come out my mouth. Disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
This fucking political party, the Democratic Party, have lied to us about everything. They've lied about being the party of the middle class. They've lied about being the party of peace. They've lied about being the party that wants to help poor people. Okay? What the last several weeks have proven to us all is that this is a cadre of criminals and losers and spoiled children of affluent parents who were more concerned about looking good than actually doing good. These are people who were more concerned about looking like they were doing something for the American people than actually doing things for the American people.
All right, my brother.
What the fuck?
Does the Democratic Party need to be, does the Democratic Party need to be renounced?
Yes, they need to be renounced. And he's talking about they was worried about looking good. They wasn't looking good, not with Sleepy Joe tripping on the stage. He couldn't walk up steps. Then they had the DNC convention not too long ago where people were campaigning to be the next head of the DNC, and they had a lady up there singing slave songs, talking about this is something that been on my heart. I want to share with y'all. Fight on, people. Fight on when the government do you wrong. Like, are you serious? And mind you, her eyelashes look like feathers, like she was about to fly away. And then you had this other woman that got up there talking about, look before you got, I'm your first lesbian, something, like, once again leading with their sexuality. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, come on. And then they had the funny one. They had this, he was a Latin guy, and he said he's the first non-binary Latina. Now, this was a man that's before you, saying he's the first non-binary Latina.
Latina or Latino?
Latina.
So
that's what I said. Yes, Latina. You heard me. That's the point I'm making. Like, you are confused in your own identity, because there's no way you could be non-binary. No way you could be non-binary if you talking about you a Latina. Yeah. That means you're
because I is female,
feminine,
yeah,
and Latino would be the masculine.
Yeah,
and so therefore non-binary, saying you don't resonate with male or female, but yet you sitting here talking about I'm the first non-binary African Latina.
I do have a little insight on that. I'm taking Spanish class. And that's the video
y'all should have played.
I'm taking Spanish class right now, and we just covered a lesson. It's called diminutives or something of that nature, when you're adding the ito or the a to words to make them a little trendy. So that could be where my man was going, but ultimately,
make it trendy.
Yeah, because it's called diminutives. Where, so for example, if it was just this Carl, or it'd be like Carlito or Carlita, like Carlio, or just the adding that ito or ito or ita at the end, it makes it. It's supposed to make the word like a trendy word, or so. To your point, that could be how he was using the word.
How? He was sway.
That's my point. Going back to language, we got to be mindful.
You've been rocking 100 down there.
I'm just telling you what the language is in this, and specifically with Spanish.
Is this her? This her right here.
You fight on, you fight on, you fight on.
Y'all thought I was bullshit, did y'all? Look at the sign language person.
Your government is doing you wrong.
Now this is tragic right here.
Oh, you fight on.
I had to wipe my eyes off of that one, y'all.
That's her introduction.
Wow.
Then she like she did something. Looking like Fantasia's grandmother.
Like, overall, my thing when it comes to these types of situations is like, why, like you said, why can't we just be about business? Why do we want to use every platform as some opportunity for some level of social advocacy in this regards? But it's like social advocacy in regards to your sexuality. Like, we're not here to talk about your personal opinions or your thoughts, what's been weighing heavy. Like, y'all here to elect a president for the DNC.
Right.
Let's hear your, like you said, capabilities.
Let's hear your capabilities.
Let's hear your capabilities. Let's hear why you believe you need to be that individual.
I don't need to hear your rendition of the
old Negro spirituals. Right.
And that ain't even, that's something she made up.
Facts.
She made that song up. She been better off singing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
So yeah, they weren't looking good.
No, that's so to the point. That video you sent. No, they ain't look good. I want to know what made you think of me when you seen that.
No, he was talking about renouncing the Democratic. So again, you're applying your meaning of looking good, because that's not the meaning I got when he was saying looking good. When I heard him say looking good, I more so went to just the fact of just posturing, you know, not necessarily Sleepy Joe falling over. I'm more so looking good as far as just how we always just recognition, like, oh, look what we did, you know, we had Pride Month, you know what I'm saying, like looking good just in recognition. Like, that's what I took from when he was saying looking good, not necessarily in actual fact and outcomes and results. So it's just like, no, they to his point, they think they looking good in regards to what they're doing as far as on, you know, their politics and what they're doing, and like you said, the DOGE, the DEI. Oh, that's what he means. Well, that's what I took it as him mean when he by looking good, but not doing good.
Letting drag queens do story time is They think that's looking good
within the policy of DEI. Yes, that's looking good.
Letting men compete against women. They think they're doing good
within the framework
of
this DEI. Yes.
How about allowing books for elementary school kids with topics of same-sex intercourse? How the boy and the boy putting on a condom having sex.
As far as the Democrats are concerned, for their
the girl
DEI,
and the girl eating cat.
That's diversity, equity, and inclusion. As far as the Democrats were concerned,
they ain't doing it but making it. It's about to.
That's why he's saying that they need to be renounced because they don't look
no
good.
Democratic.
You know what I'm
party.
saying?
And we're gonna get our one party.
That's my point. So that's why he's saying. So that's why I shared, because I was like, yeah, he's talking about what you're talking about, which is renouncing all these parties, specifically with the Democrats, starting with them first, and then we get to a one party system.
I'm sorry, I didn't view it from that lens.
But that's why language is important. And we just had a visual experiment. I mean, a visual example of the image we showed earlier about everybody has their own universe.
And that's why this show ain't live, too. Good stuff, D. I appreciate that. That was cool. We got to do that again. That was fun. All right, that's a wrap for this episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. We've challenged perspectives, questioned narratives, and as always, kept it real. Whether you agree, disagree, or you're still processing, the conversation doesn't stop here. So hit us up on our social media. Let us know your thoughts, your takeaways, or even where you think we got it wrong, because dialogue is what keeps the ripples going. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. So until the next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep making ripples. We'll catch you on the next one. All right, so that brings us to the end of another episode. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you being here. I'm Quattro.
I'm Diesel.
And remember to tap into our social media platforms. All the links are in the description, and we'll catch you on the next one.